Hey guys, Yuliya here. So today we're doing another garden tour, and it is a garden tour of our woodland area here. And I will try to find the photos of what this looked like before I started to work on this garden 3 years ago. It was pretty much a patch of grass that I could not get to grow because we have these two big trees, a pin oak and a Norway maple. And the grass is really having trouble growing here. So what I decided is to just convert the entire area into a shade or woodland garden, combining native plants and some ornamentals. And so I'm just going to jump right into describing and talking about the plants here. First of all, I have a number of Astilbes in this area. I don't know, some people say Astilbe or Astilba. Around here we say Astilba, but I looked it up online and most people say Astilbe. So I'm just gonna go with Astilbe for this video. But I have some Astilbe, and I have this plant here which is goat's beard, and they are reminiscent of Astilbe. They have the same sort of panicle like flowers, and that's the reason I planted them together, to confuse people. And they actually have very similar leaves as well. But goat's beard, or Aruncus dioicus, and this is what they look like when they just open up. They're pretty much a white flower, and then they fade to more of a chartreuse color. They are just a wonderful native plant. This one is young, it's fairly young, so it's about 3 years old. They're very slow to start, but once they take off, they actually grow up to 5 feet. There are a number of cultivars that are shorter and don't flop as much, but in this area I actually decided to go for the native species with just straight native species, no cultivars whatsoever. Over here, if we move right along, or actually let me talk about this other native plant that I have here, which is Penstemon digitalis. And this one is also straight species. This is not a cultivar. I love this plant, probably as much as the pollinators. It's kind of early in the day, they're not out yet, but they're covered in bees usually. And I let this adorable plant seed all over the place here, and sometimes I cut it for flower arrangements as well. And the whole idea behind this woodland garden is kind of weave together the natives and ornamentals. So whatever the natives I have here, I let them seed wherever they want, and I pull out some seedlings if there's just too much of them. And I just love this natural, relaxed, airy look of this garden right now. Speaking of another native that tends to seed, is northern sea oats right here. And I love how it weaves through the Astilbe right here. This is Vision in Red, which is kind of a funny name because it is not red in color. It's more of like a really, really deep pink or magenta color. And this northern sea oats, they just seed themselves here. And I think I had like one patch somewhere, and they just spread around so beautifully. By the way, we're having construction going on the road, which I have been posting on Instagram about that. So I'm sorry about the noise, guys. Anyway, the northern sea oats, I recommend only to experienced gardeners. I love this native grass. It looks very much like bamboo. It has beautiful seed heads in the fall, but it does seed. And I would not call it an aggressive plant, it's more of an assertive plant. So definitely stay on top of it. It's not that easy to pull out, and it just adds so much to the composition. And of course, right here we have these gorgeous hydrangeas, and I'm going to go behind them so you can sort of see what's going on. And there's some really big, beautiful flowers here. So the story behind these hydrangeas is I was working on a job. It was a commercial job site, and they had these dead stumps of hydrangeas, which I saw potential in. And the workers just removed them and threw them in the trash. And I think this is about 4 here, and there's 3. I took about 7 of dead stumps. And in 3 years, they turned into this gorgeous grove of hydrangeas. So these are hydrangeas macrophyllas, which is big leaf hydrangeas. I do not know the cultivar, obviously, because they were just trash. And these are the type of hydrangeas that turn their color depending on the acidity of your soil. The more acid your soil is, the bluer the flowers are. You can acidify your soil. There's actually a video that I made a couple of years ago or last year where I can show you how to turn your hydrangeas either blue or pink. So I did put soil acidifier for these hydrangeas last fall and early this spring to make sure that these come out these gorgeous blue color. Some are sort of confused. They're not sure which way to go, whether to go pink or blue. Gorgeous nonetheless. Oh, actually, another point that I wanted to make is that I like to interplant native plants with gorgeous ornamentals like this, because a lot of people find native plants not that attractive, but I think it's important to still incorporate a lot of native plants in your landscape. And the way to do it is to attract people with something like this, and after they look at this grove of beautiful hydrangeas, they may look over and say, oh, what is that little white flower? And I can tell them that's a native penstemon, and they grow so well together. Actually, there's some seeded right here, so that will be really pretty when they bloom together with these gorgeous plants. Since I'm here, I actually wanted to show you our vegetable garden because it's been going really well this year. So right here, I planted this sugar snap peas in March. So it's middle of June. They've been going and going and going. I just love peas. I had no idea how much I love peas until this spring. I just love gathering them, putting them in salads. Love this. And then we have 6 vegetable beds here. And there's an herb bed where I have basil, cilantro that I seeded. Now this kale right here has been going great guns since beginning of March. Honestly, every time I planted kale before, it bolted very, very fast. But because we had very cool spring and cool beginning of summer, this kale has been growing so well, and I will really have way more than I need. And then this bed right here, just a combination of carrots and spinach and arugula that I constantly rotate and I seed. There are 4 cucumbers here. There's some chives, some tomatoes. So these tomatoes, you guys, remember the video I did comparing different grow lights? So these are my experimental tomatoes because there were different heights and some are doing better than others. But here they all are, so you can see the progression of those wonderful tomatoes. They are blooming, so hopefully we'll get tomatoes soon. And let me just go around here because I wanted to show you this hydrangea here. These hydrangeas are the same ones that I just showed you, but look how blue these are. I think the soil here is really acidic. Just beautiful. But what I wanted to show you, oops, got caught up here. Are these feverfews, which seeded all over the place in this garden. And I bought a $1.50 packet 10 years ago, and from that packet I have feverfews all over the garden. They are just an amazing little flower. They smell very herbally, and they go with pretty much everything. They have 2 waves of blooms. Right now and later in the summer, they seed freely, but you can pull out the seedlings very easily if you don't like them. So I just put them in compost pile, and that's not a problem. So let's go here next. And this whole area is like full of little walkways and pathways that I kind of make as the garden seeds. And that's what I love about this natural garden, is that the plants kind of decide where they're going themselves, and they actually make the best decisions, definitely better than me. So right here I have more of the aromatic asters, and they do seed all over the place. There's Pieris japonica that blooms in the spring. There's more Astilbe. Oh, and this lantern Michael bought at a garage sale, or I don't remember where he got it, but it just has that wonderful woodlandsy, whimsical look, and it is standing on a piece of the American holly that we had to take down, unfortunately, earlier in the spring, and I think it's just the most adorable combination here. And actually these two stumps here are from the pin oak, because we had to clean up this tree. It was losing limbs a lot, and when it lost a limb of this size, I had to call an arborist, and I actually asked him to leave a couple of these so I can incorporate them in the garden. Anyway, there's more of the feverfews. There's bleeding heart that blooms earlier in the spring. There's some toad lilies that will bloom later. And now actually the whole area next to the hedge is full of white snakeroot, which is later blooming native, and that's actually quite important, because around September, October time, a lot of flowers are done blooming, and the pollinators really looking for lots of nectar, and the white snakeroot is one of the plants that blooms very, very late. It is a little bit aggressive again, but it is really the deal that you're making with these native plants, and it's about your tolerance on how much of the seeding you can take. As we move right along here, there's another little path. I have a oak leaf hydrangea here that is quite young. Right here, I can show you. The oak leaf hydrangeas are probably one of my most favorite hydrangeas. They grow quite large, and I would like to have a larger shrub here for some privacy. Beautiful white flowers, leaves with gorgeous fall color. Now this little plant right next to the oak leaf hydrangea is a narrow leaf mountain mint, native plant, and there are a number of mountain mints in the native category, and most of them love to be in the sunny, dry locations. This one actually does really well in dry shade, because I've never had any problems with it. This whole area is not irrigated. I don't have irrigation here. The only plants that I water here are the macrophyllas, because they're so water hungry. But this little plant is just adorable. It's about to bloom with little white flowers. Even when it doesn't bloom, it has beautiful structure and fall color. Right next to it is a 9-bark, which is also a native shrub that does really well in dry shade for me. And right here there's Kolkwitzia, and I posted a photo of this shrub a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, and you guys really wanted to know what it is. Kolkwitzia is not native, but it is not aggressive. It is an old-fashioned shrub that is covered with beautiful pink flowers. It is drought tolerant, and that's a big deal for me here, because again, I do not irrigate this area. But this whole garden transforms throughout the season, and I will have more flowers coming in here, so I may do another garden tour here. So definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I would love to stay in touch with you, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.